Hello, let's see. Who is with us? Participants. Oh, there we go. Okay. Mona. Yay, I see a lot of people that are joining us. I don't see Mona. Awesome. Okay, so the one who the guys that are on here, sorry. This is a Zoom webinar, so I can't see you or I can't hear you, and no one else can see you or hear you. So all I can do is see a list of the names of the people that have joined us. And in just a moment, when Mona gets on, I'm going to share with her. And the way that we'll communicate is that you can raise your hand, or there is a chat function at the bottom, and there's also a Q&A. So if you would click either on the chat portion. Hey, I see that. So the chat portion, when it says to everyone, that means everyone can see it. You can also chat with just people within, and then I would also like for you to, on the chat or in the Q&A, put your name and the name of your center. And if you know your PDR number, you can go ahead and include that. So let's see. Oh, well, there we go. So Mona, I have promoted you to a panelist, so you should be able to see all the attendees. So she's going to kind of take the role. So I just need to know, because a lot of them just have a name or whatever you use as your handle. So we need to know your name, what center you're with, and if you know your PDR number. If you don't, it's okay. You can include it later, but that way I can get you some PDR credit for your time here today. So as I was saying, using the Zoom webinar, I can allow you to talk. So if you would like to talk, just let me know in the chat or in the Q&A. And I'm going to try to watch that. I'll try to watch the Q&A, and I'll try to watch the chat the best I can. I asked Mona to get on so that way she could take the role to see who's here. And so please make sure and let us know what center you're with. As you can see, there's lots of different functions with this. So where it says raise hand, if you can hear me and you can see me, and wait, let me start by share my screen. Who can share? Okay, I'm gonna screen share. I'm gonna do my PowerPoint. Okay, and then we're going to play from the beginning. There we go. So if you would raise your hand if you can hear me, see me, and also see my PowerPoint presentation. If you're having any trouble, please let us know in the Q&A, and I'll do my best to try to help you. Or in the chat portion, let's see. Thank you so much for everyone that's here. Thank you for commenting with the name of your center and your PDR number. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, I am recording this presentation, and I will be uploading it this weekend to my YouTube, the Arkansas Children YouTube channel. So if you have some people that work for you that you would like to come back and watch this, you can do that. Or if you missed something, I know a lot of you are in the middle of getting ready for snack time, or you're going to go be picking up after school care kids and stuff. So if you're in the middle of something and you missed something, that way you can go back and rewatch and make sure that you have all of your questions answered. Okay, let's see. Good job. So if everyone can raise their hand, if you can see me, hear me, and you can see the PowerPoint presentation. So if you don't have your hand raised, I will know that you can't hear me, see me. So there's still a few people that haven't raised their hand. So there's a button either at the top or at the bottom that has a little hand. And so that way you can raise your hand. And if you can do that, that way I know that you can see me, you can hear me, and you can see the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. If you haven't already, please use the chat function and put your name, the name of your center, and your PDR number if you know it. So Mona can take attendance for training here today. Ashley and Marcy, can y'all hear me? The Medleys, can y'all hear me? Sharina, can you hear me? Enrichment and Empowerment, can you hear me? I just want to make sure that y'all can hear me and see the PowerPoint presentation. If you're having any trouble, oops, didn't mean to do that. If you have any trouble, please let us know in the Q&A or the chat function. We can hear and see, yay. All right, awesome, my hand is raised. Okay, I'll move that over. So I'm gonna lower your hands. Awesome, let's see it's right at 1 o'clock. I wanna give another minute or two for those that haven't joined us yet, but it looks like we've got a good group. I'm very thankful that y'all are all here today. Please bear with me. It's very strange just sitting here talking to my computer with no interaction. But we'll do the best to get through this, and hopefully you'll enjoy this platform better than just the YouTube video because it is more interactive. You can chat, you can comment, ask questions, you can raise your hand. We're going to also use, there's a feature that's a polling feature, and we're going to use that throughout the presentation so that you can answer questions. And if you ever have any questions, go ahead and jot those down in the Q&A or the chat function, and I'll do my best to try to watch it. But I have all these little boxes all over my screen, so just bear with me. Thank you for those who are letting us know that you're here, and you're letting us know what center you're with and your PDR number. I really appreciate it. Okay. Well, I know that y'all's time is valuable, and so is mine. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon. For everyone that doesn't know me, my name is Nicole Harris, and I am the trainer here at AR Children. And I want to welcome you to our food program training for 2021. Today's training is called Safe Food and Healthy Bodies. And we're going to discuss how practicing good hygiene and following simple food safety practices can help keep the children in your care healthy and thriving. So with me right now is Mona. She is on and she is taking attendance, and you can also say hi to her in the chat function or in the Q&A. And I'm going to do my best. So let's get started. So the very first thing that we're going to do is do a little poll. So you've got a polling function, and I am going to launch a question. Okay, so the question is, what is the most dangerous food? And we're going to come back later in the training to answer this question. So I am launching this poll, and what I want you to do is choose what you think is the most dangerous food. So choose one. Is it chicken, fish, ham, or leftovers? What do you think is the most dangerous food? Very good. Thank y'all so much for participating. So after you've selected your answer, you just hit submit, and then they pop up on my screen that I can see that 75% of y'all have voted. So I'll give y'all just another moment to do that. There's a few more. Thank you. 3 or 4 more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll there. Looks like it's kind of a tie between chicken and leftovers. So we'll see later in the presentation. Okay, thank you. So as we get started, let's review what our agenda is for today. Welcome and introduction to food safety. We're going to be talking about all of the required elements of CACFP. We're going to talk about why some foods do make us sick. And we're going to talk a little bit about keeping food safe from farm to fork. And then also just what to include in your claim packets and all of those normal things. And just make sure that if you have any questions to use the Q&A portion, or you can use the chat function if you want everyone to see that. You can choose whether just to show it to me or to everyone. Okay. So I'll have plenty of opportunities to kind of interact in this training. This is a copy of the agenda. You should have received this in the email along with all of the handouts. So feel free to pull those up and look at those on your devices. If you'd like later to print them out, you can. And so this is our agenda for today. And we've kind of already talked about a lot of these, but just the housekeeping things is that we talked about the Zoom functions, that there's the Q&A, there's the chat box, and there's the polling. I really encourage you all to participating. All the training materials are available virtually that I've emailed those out to you. If for some reason you didn't receive anything and you need something, just let us know and we can get those out to you. When the webinar is over today, there was a training checklist included in the email, and it looks like this. We need one of these on every center. So if you would please fill that out and email that back to either me or Mona at the conclusion of the training. And I ask that you please make sure and get those into us by September the 5th or 17th. I think is what I said, September the 17th. Remember, my email is nicole@ar-children.com and Mona's is centers@ar-children.com. So either one, but we do need one of these training checklists to go into your file to show that you've received your required annual training to participate in the food program. Okay, so one of my objectives for this training is after completing this training, participants will list 3 food safety practices that will reduce the risk of contamination or foodborne illnesses. So in the past, we have talked about many different foods that benefit multiple systems as part of our bodies, especially foods like vegetables, fruits, lean meat, fish, and dairy products. Unfortunately, many of these same nutritious foods can also make us sick if they're not handled or cooked properly. Children are especially vulnerable to foodborne illnesses because of their immune systems are not fully developed. And they have a harder time fighting off germs that cause disease. Now, does that mean we should only be serving prepackaged, shelf-stable foods to our kids and never buy anything fresh or minimally processed? Well, of course not. No, as childcare providers, you ensure the health and safety of children in your care by making sure your home is a safe environment. That means that even the food you serve has a huge influence on the quality of the foods that are served in your center. So what do you think of when you hear the phrase food safety? So I want to take a minute. I want you to open your chat function where it says chat and tell us, what does it mean to you when I say food safety? Hi, everyone's saying hi. What does it mean to you when I say food safety? Anybody in the chat function? I know y'all are there. Food safety means how to handle, cook, store, and serve safely. Food needs to be cooked and cleaned properly. Preparation, very good. Proper handling of food. Very good. This training hopefully will teach you some common sense, practical ways to keep food safe and reduce the risk that children and you will become sick. Okay. First, before we dive into the food safety part of our training, we're going to review all the required CACFP required training topics and civil rights. We're going to play a matching game and I'll ask you questions and you're going to select the correct answer on the polling feature. Okay, so my first question that I'm going to ask you is, blank and blank must be completed daily by the end of the day. So I'm going to launch a poll. It is now launched, so you can vote. Is it A, calendars and menus, B, attendance and production records, or C, attendance and claims? Very good. Y'all are so smart. Looks like about 75% of you voted. Okay, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And the correct answer is B, and the majority of you got that correct. Attendance and production records must be kept on site for review by AR Children, State of Arkansas, or USDA. So the attendance and production records must be completed daily by the end of the day. Very good. All right, number 3. CACFP regulations requires childcare enrollment forms and income forms to be updated A, annually, B, daily, or C, never. How often do your enrollment forms and income forms need to be updated? Annually, daily, or never? Very nice. Good job. The correct answer is A, which is annually. Child enrollment forms and income forms must be kept on file in the Childcare Center. Meals are not reimbursed until a copy of each child enrollment form and income form has been sent to AR Children's office. So Mona needs a copy of those on file before we can submit your claim. So you must have an enrollment form on every child in your care. This is what it looks like. And we must have a copy in our office before submitting your claim. Make sure that the parent signs it and dates it. You double check everything before signing off. And make sure you initial it and date each form. So what you're doing is you're just making sure that all the information is correct to the best of your knowledge, and you're going to initial it and date it. And then you're going to fax, mail, email a copy to our office before filing your copies away in your A to Z file in your red binder. Okay. The next form is the income form. And the same thing, remember that we must have one of these forms on every child in your care. Remember, if they are a foster child or they participate in the SNAP program, they're automatically free. Everyone else, we need them to fill out part number 4, which has their total household gross income. And then, so you're going to collect all their income information. They need to sign it and date it and include the last 4 digits of their social at the bottom. And then the back of the form is where you're going to fill out and pick whether you classify them as free, reduced, or you denied them on the application. Okay. In your handouts, you should have the new updated income guidelines. So you can use that to determine whether they're free or reduced. If you do deny them on the application, please, under reasoning, please tell us why you denied them. Did you deny them because their income was too high, or did you deny them because of an incomplete application? And then you're going to sign it where it says determining official signature. You're going to sign it and date it, and you're going to send us a copy. Mona is going to go over it, and she's going to double check and make sure that everything is correct. And then she's going to sign it where it says sponsors signature and date. Okay. If you ever have a question about your enrollments and your incomes, feel free to ask Mona. She keeps an Excel document to keep track of all of your forms to make sure that they're all updated, and all of your kids that are on your attendance that we have these forms for. Okay. Now for your babies, you're 0 to 12 months of age, we must have an obligation to serve infant form on every infant in your care. So infants are 0 to 12 months, and you are required to offer how many types of formula? Correct. One type of formula, and it must be an iron fortified infant formula. Okay. You may offer more than one. If you're a larger center, you may want to offer a milk base and a soy base. That way you'll cover, 99% of the kids in your care. Okay. It's really important that you list on here what type it is. So it needs to say like parent's choice with iron, Enfamil with iron, not just formula. Okay. We need to have the name of the infant and the date of birth of the infant. Then the parent will accept it or they will decline it. So say you have Enfamil with iron on there, and then the parent says, well, my child is on a special formula. Then they're going to say, I will provide, and they need to tell us exactly what type of formula they're going to provide. Or some parents may choose to express and bring breast milk into the center, which we highly encourage. Then they're going to put that they're going to provide breast milk for you. Also, we allow personal breastfeeding on site. Sorry. So you are required to have a place for parents. If a mom wants to come in and breastfeed their child on site, then they'll come in, they'll nurse their baby, and they'll give it back to the infant teacher for care. This is a great option for if you have workers that may have babies. That way they can nurse their baby and then they'll go right back to the care. You cannot claim that if the parent takes the child off ground. So like it takes them outside to the car, they have to stay inside of your center to be able to get that, for that to be a reimbursable meal. Okay. So once they get around 6 months of age, they're required to have iron fortified infant cereal and fruits and vegetables. And then the parent's going to accept the meals and snacks that you offer, or they're going to decline it. If they're going to decline it, then they'll say, I will provide meals and snacks for my infant. They'll sign it and they'll date it. And you're going to send a copy to our office for Mona to go into your file. And then you're going to file the original by the child's last name. Are there any questions about income forms, enrollment forms, or obligation to serve infant forms? I'm looking in the chat and the Q&A just to make sure we don't have any questions. Okay, good. The next thing I wanted to talk about is a medical statement. If a substitution is due to a disability or a special dietary need, the parent must provide a medical statement from the baby's healthcare provider. The medical statement must include the following: the name of the food or foods to be avoided, explanation of how the food affects the baby, and signature of the baby's healthcare provider on the form. Recommended substitutions of the food can be included on the medical statement. And that's really good. I mean, it's just a really helpful thing for you to have. So if a parent says, I can't have this, but these are some ideas of what you can do in substitution. This is what the form looks like. There should be a copy of this also in your handouts. If you need a copy of it and you can't locate it, just let us know and we can send this out to you. If you already have doctor's notes on file, that's fine. You don't have to go and get one of these, but I would encourage you to use these medical statements for any new students. Okay. Any questions? Okay. No questions? All right. Then we are going to move on. Hopefully, let's to my next question. Number 4. You're planning to replace meat or meat alternates for grain at breakfast today. How many ounces of meat or meat alternate would you need to serve a 4-year-old? Would it be A, 1.5 ounces, B, 1/2 ounce, or C, 1 ounce? You're planning to replace meat or meat alternate for grain at breakfast today. How many ounces of meat or meat alternate would you need to serve a 4-year-old? 1.5 ounce, 1/2 ounce, or 1 ounce? About half of y'all have answered, so I'll give you just another minute. Very good. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. It looks like about only 20% of you got that correct. So the correct answer is actually B, 1/2 ounce. A meat or meat alternate may be substituted for a grain at breakfast up to 3 times per week. The minimum portion size is the same for grain and meat or meat alternate at breakfast. Okay. So what about serving meat and meat alternates at breakfast? This worksheet is included in your handouts. The top of the worksheet states the requirements for a reimbursable breakfast in the CACFP. A reimbursable breakfast must contain food from these 3 components. You have to have your milk, a vegetable, fruit, or both, and a grain. And remember that for each food component, there's a minimum amount that you must serve in order for the food to be reimbursable. So for instance, as you see here, go to the next one. In the green box on the left, for children 3 to 5 years of age, they must have 6 fluid ounces of milk, 1/2 cup of vegetable, fruit, or both, and 1/2 ounce of equivalent or grain. And then here's another example for the 1 to 2-year-olds. It's 4 ounces, 1/4 cup of vegetables, fruit, and 1/2 ounce of equivalent or grain. You also have the option to serve credible meats or meat alternates in place of your grain at breakfast up to 3 times a week. As many of you already know, meat or meat alternates are foods such as eggs, ham, turkey, peanut butter, soy butter, yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese, tofu, and beans. So to serve a meat or meat alternate in place of a grain for breakfast, the amount of meat or meat alternate you serve must be equal to or more than the amount of grain requirement for breakfast of this age group. So for example, they would still need the 6 fluid ounces of milk, 1/2 cup of vegetable or fruit, and then 1/2 ounce equivalent of grain to make it reimbursable. And a lot of times people ask, well, can I do it in addition to the grain? Of course, it's always fine. Just remember that these are the minimum. And if you're going to substitute your meat for your grain, you can only do it up to 3 times a week. So here's what the two options for breakfast. Because the meat or meat alternate is replacing the grain, you do not have to serve a grain, but you can do this up to 3 times a week, no matter how many days your center is open. If you're open all 7 days of the week, you can still serve meat or meat alternates in place of grains up to 3 times a week. So let's look at another example, this time for a 1 to 2 year old. So this is the minimum requirements, is 4 ounces of milk, 1/4 cup of vegetables or fruit, and 1/2 ounce equivalent of grain. And if you wanted to serve that meat, then you would just do 1/2 ounce equivalent of meat in place of the grain. Okay, so let's apply that, what we just learned. And I'm going to launch another question, question 5. If you want to serve a meat or meat alternate in place of a grain at breakfast for a 6 to 12-year-old, what is the minimum amount of meat or meat alternate you must serve? 8 ounces, 1/2 ounce, 1 ounce, or 2 ounce? Y'all are catching on. That's right. Very good. If you wanted to serve a meat or meat alternate in place of a grain at breakfast for a 6 to 12-year-old, what's the minimum amount of meat or meat alternate you must serve? About half of you answered. Nice work. It's at least 1 ounce. So I want to end that poll, at least 1 ounce. And that's because the minimum amount of grain requirement at breakfast is 1 ounce equivalent. When you substitute the meat or meat alternate for grain at breakfast, you must serve 1 ounce equivalent of meat or meat alternate for every 1 ounce of grain. So let's look back at the sheet, your handout. As you can see on the screen, the bottom of the worksheets has a table that lists common meat or meat alternates that might be served at breakfast, such as cheese and eggs. Across the top, you will find different age groups for the child and adult meals. And then below is the minimum serving size required for that age group. So for example, if you look at the column that has the red rectangle, you will see the column is for ages 1 to 2 and 3 to 5. The light purple at the top tells you that the minimum serving size for meat or meat alternate is 1/2 ounce equivalent. And then the information directly below that tells you how much of the food is needed to make up 1/2 ounce equivalent of meat or meat alternate. You can see that 1/8 cup of beans, 1/2 ounce of natural cheese, 1/8 cup of cottage or ricotta cheese, and 1/4 of a large egg is all equivalent to 1/2 ounce equivalent of meat or meat alternate. Okay, so let's do one more practice. Look at this one. This would be number 6. Let's say you want to serve yogurt at breakfast to your 3 to 5-year-old. Once per week. If you want to serve the yogurt in place of the grain as part of a reimbursable breakfast, how much yogurt should you serve? Is it an eighth of a cup, 1/4 of a cup, 1 tablespoon, or 1/2 of a tablespoon? 1/8 of a cup, 1/4 of a cup, 1 tablespoon, 1/2 of a tablespoon. I'll give you just a second. About half of you have answered. Okay, I'll go ahead and end that poll. All right. Nice work. If you wanted to serve yogurt in place of grain as part of a reimbursable breakfast, you're serving a 3 to 5-year-old, you need to serve at least 1/4 a cup or 2 ounces of yogurt. And remember, these are minimums. 2 ounces of yogurt is not very much. Most kids would probably eat a lot more than that. So you can always give them more, but you want to start with the minimum requirement. All right, let's take another look at the table. Oh, yes. Example, let me go to this next page and that way y'all can see. So this would be for the 6 to 12-year-olds. And you can see the light purple box at the top is the minimum amount of meat or meat alternate. So theirs is 1 ounce. And then if you look down, you're going to see, you're asking about peanut butter. Sorry, I can't see it. It says 2 tablespoons. So a 1 to 2-year-old and a 3 to 5-year-old would get 1 tablespoon, and a 6 to 12-year-old would need at least 2 tablespoons for breakfast. Very good question. Thank you. Okay. All right. The next thing is there any more questions about serving meat or meat alternates at breakfast? If there is, go ahead and put that in the chat or in the Q&A. You got that? Good job. Okay. So this is our next question. Which foods may be served to a developmentally ready infant at snack? A, fruits and vegetables. B, crackers, breads, and ready-to-eat breakfast cereals. Or C, all of the above. Okay, I'm launching this poll, so you can vote now. A, B, or C? Fruits and vegetables, crackers, breads, and ready-to-eat cereal, or all of the above? Everybody answered? Almost 70%. Very nice. I want to go ahead and end that poll. And the answer is C, all of the above. When an infant is developmentally ready, providers are required to provide fruits and vegetables, breast milk or formula, and a meat or meat alternate at meals. At snacks, an enriched grain item such as a bread can be served instead of a meat or meat alternate. Very good. So remember, in the CACFP, there are 2 age groups for infants. There's the birth through 5 months, and then there's 6 through 11 months. And the great thing about the changes in CACFP is it's all about developmentally readiness. So we're not going to tell you, okay, the baby turns 6 months of age today, you have to be giving them cereal and fruits and vegetables, okay? It's all about developmentally readiness. So some babies may be ready at 4 or 5 months, and some may not be ready till 8 or 9 months, okay? So the word developmental readiness, it kind of sounds technical, but what it means really is simply the infant is growing and developing new skills and is ready to begin exploring foods other than exclusively drinking formula and breast milk. So as we know, and we've all known as caregivers and as parents, that children all grow at different rates, and the process of starting solid foods. So what I want you to do is to work with the parents and work with the doctors, the pediatricians, to determine which foods will be introduced at what time. The age range varies widely, and the meal patterns can be adapted to each child's developmental stage. So infants are considered developmental ready to begin eating solid foods, generally around 6 months of age, when they have developed certain skills. They can sit up with support. They can move their tongue up and down. They can swallow soft foods without choking. They can drink from a cup with assistance, and they reach for food and open their mouth and get excited when food is near. So let's take a look at the infant meal patterns and what makes an infant food credible. Okay. let's look at the infant meal pattern. You'll notice that the portion sizes are listed in ranges of 0 to 2 tablespoons for fruits and vegetables, and 0 to 4 tablespoons for meat or meat alternates, grains, and iron fortified infant cereals. Now, what does that mean when you're serving foods to an infant? It means that you can start small when you're introducing a brand new food to an infant, maybe just a bite or two. Once a child is familiar with the food and is regularly eating the food, you need to provide the full amount, up to 4 tablespoons. The baby does not have to eat the full amount for it to be credible or reimbursable. There's no whole grain rich requirement for the infant meal pattern, so keep that in mind. A lot of the infant cereals are fortified and they may be whole grain, but it's not required for them to be whole grain. And keep in mind that infants do not need to be fed on the same schedule as the older children. They dictate their own feeding schedules. And finally, always follow the wishes and work with the parents and the pediatricians to determine what foods to give to the infant next. Okay, so here is what it looks like for breakfast. And sometimes that we use the word or on the menus, and so that you can choose between different food items. So for example, under the grain, meat, and meat alternate components, you may offer 0 to 4 tablespoons of infant cereal, meat, fish, poultry, whole egg, cooked dry beans or peas, and then it says or cheese or cottage cheese or yogurt. So you can choose from those. I highly recommend that you keep the babies on the iron fortified infant cereal as long as you can, but I understand, once they get the taste for other things, they're not going to want to go back to that. So the iron fortified formulas and the iron fortified cereals are the best for babies' development. So I would try to keep them on that cereal as long as possible. All right, this is what it looks like for lunch and supper. It's just like breakfast, breast milk or iron fortified infant formula, infant cereal, and vegetables and fruit. And the serving sizes are also the same. And then I already switched to snack. And then these are the food items for snack. They're breast milk or iron fortified infant formula, a bread or grain, and a vegetable and fruit. I don't know why it's switching. There it goes. The difference from breakfast, lunch, and supper, a meat or meat alternate is not required at snack. And at snack is when you can serve certain grains can be offered. So that's when you can give, Cheerios or puffs or bitter biscuits or anything like that to an infant for the grain option. Here's some examples of grains for infants. Iron fortified dry infant cereal, breads and crackers, and ready to eat cereals. Remember that the ready to eat cereals must meet the sugar limit. So 6 grams of sugar per dry ounce, and it needs to be iron fortified. Remember too that some of the ready to eat cereals may be a choking hazard. So try to make sure that you choose the ones, like cereal, like Cheerios and Kicks and puffy things like that will dissolve easily in their mouth, and stay away from the ones that have nuts and dried fruits and other hard things in them. The Feeding Infants and the Child Care Adult Program Guide is your go-to resource. It looks like this. You should have received one last year, or you received one when we signed you up. Let me grab it so you can see. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, this is what the infant guide looks like. It's a great resource, full of information on feeding infants. There's some examples of menu items. There's examples of letters that you can communicate with the parents. It talks about what's credible and what's not. We have these that we can send you in digital form. And so Mona can email that out to you so you can just look at it digitally on your device, or you can print it out. But we also have some hard copies here in our office. And if you do not have one and you would like to have one, just let us know and we can get one to you either at your next review. But yeah, these are a great resource, and I highly encourage you to give these to your infant teachers. And when you're hiring a new infant teacher, this would be a great resource to give them their training. And if you go to the USDA Team Nutrition website, here's the website, teamnutrition.usda.gov. You can download this. You can also do parent handouts. Those are really good for communication and for your better beginnings. Yes. Let me see. Mona, if you're still on, can you write down the people that would like to get a hard copy of the Feeding Infants Guide? But she can also email you the links for everything as well. And there's some training videos that go along with it. So if you have an infant teacher that you would like to give them some additional training on how to feed and handle infant care, this is a great resource. Okay. Any questions about infant feeding? Okay. Yes, we can get one to you. All right, so the next question, please contact our office if number 8, launch. Your center will be closed for any reason. You make any changes to your program, or all of the above. Please contact our office. Thank you. We'll do our best to get all of you a hard copy. It may be at your next visit that they'll bring them out to you, because they're pretty expensive to mail. But we will definitely get everyone one. All right, I'm going to close this poll, and the correct answer is C, all of the above. Please contact our office if your center will be closed for any reason and if you make any changes to your program. Remember that we are your go-between with the state, and if the state is to come out or contact you and something, like if you're not home, or if you're not at the center, or if the center is closed for some reason, they're going to contact us, and we need to know. We need to know what's going on. We need to be in the know. So if you're going to be closed for any reason, just call the office and let us know, or shoot an email to centers@ar-children.com. And also, if you make any changes, like if your license changes, your license capacity, maybe your mealtime is not working for you. Maybe your, it didn't, I'm sorry. She said it didn't show up. Looks like most people have voted. So where was I? I got distracted. If you make any changes. So like if a mealtime is not working for you and you want to change your meal times, please call and let us know. We can make changes as long as there's enough time between the meals. But we just need to always be in the know, okay? Okay, the next question. Number 9. I'm going to launch this poll. True or false? If serving pre-plated meals, some meal components can be saved for later once the children have finished their entrees. True or false? Very good. About half of you have voted. I'll give you another second or two. All right, I'm going to end that poll. And there we go. And the correct answer is false. All meal components must be served at the same time, both in pre-plated meal service as well as family style. So my encouragement to you is to make sure that you put out the minimum servings of everything on their plates or out in front of them of everything. And then after they eat that, if they would like more, then they can have more. But you are required to serve all 3 components for breakfast, all 5 components for lunch, and both components for snack at the same time. Okay. Very good. All right, the next one, number 10, I'm gonna launch this one. How much fruit, vegetables are you required to serve at breakfast for your 3 to 5-year-old? Is it 1 cup, a half a cup, or a fourth of a cup? 1 cup, a half a cup, or a fourth of a cup? And all of these questions, the reason I'm asking these questions are these are things that we have found that y'all have made mistakes. And I'm not saying that y'all all have, but some of you have. So that's the reason that I've chosen these questions, these type of questions to ask. So I'll give you just another moment. About 75% of you have voted. Is it 1 cup, a half a cup, or a fourth a cup? Okay, I'm going to end that poll. And the correct answer is a half of a cup. A half a cup of fruit or vegetables is required to be served at breakfast for 3 to 5-year-olds. Also, just to remind you that at snack, they're also required to have a half a cup. So the only time that you would give them a fourth of a cup would be at lunch or supper. Yes, I don't have my measuring cups in front of me. But this is what it looks like. Yeah. So a half a cup. They need to have a whole half a cup for breakfast and for snack. For lunch, they can just have a fourth of a cup. Okay. So I know that some of y'all have not served enough, or you're not claiming enough on your production records. You may be giving them enough, but you're not putting enough down on your production records. So make sure that you're serving enough fruits and vegetables for breakfast and for snack. Okay. All right, the next one, providers must serve whole grain food items in child and adult food program at when? Every meal? It's number 11. Once per day or twice per day? When do you have to serve whole grain? Every meal, once per day, twice per day? Looks like a couple of you are having trouble answering the poll. I'm sorry. I really don't know if there's anything I can do to change it. So if you just want to say it in the chat box, what you think the answer is, A, B, or C, that would be fine. Just so I know that you're participating. Okay, I'm going to end that poll. And the correct answer is once per day. There we go. Under the new updated CACFP meal patterns, a whole grain food item is required once per day. Please indicate on your menu which food item you're claiming as your whole grain with a WG beside it. Example would be goldfish WG. So this way, Mona will know that that is the item that you're counting as your required whole grain for the day. So if you had those goldfish for a snack today, then your breakfast doesn't have to be whole grain and your lunch doesn't have to be whole grain. Okay. Say you had whole grain Cheerios today. So you put Cheerios and put a WG beside it. Then for lunch, your grain doesn't, if you're going to have bread, it doesn't have to be whole grain. It could be a white bread, and you wouldn't have to have a whole grain for snack. So there was some confusion at the beginning. Some people thought that all of your grains had to be whole grain, but no, you're only required to have one per day. Now, best practice is twice per day, but once per day is what's required. Okay, whole grain do make a difference. So what is a whole grain? At least half of the grain ingredient in a food are whole grain, and any remaining grain ingredients are enriched bran or germs. And it's only required for the children, and it's not required for the infants. Okay. And some examples of whole grain ingredients include whole wheat flour, whole grain corn flour, cracked wheat, whole grain oat flour. And then some examples of enriched grain are enriched wheat flour, enriched white flour, enriched rice flour. So in CACFP, the requirement for one whole grain offering per day applies to the children, and there's no whole grain requirement for the infants. And here's some examples of some common whole grain items that you could serve. These are just some examples. There's also there's more, like we just talked about. Goldfish are not on here, and then there's some graham crackers that come in whole grain, and they're not on this list. Any questions about whole grain? I'm going to check the chat. I'm going to check the Q&A. No questions. Okay, great job. Thank you so much for participating in those polls. So the next thing we're going to talk about real quickly is the areas of civil rights. Child and adult care food programs must be trained on civil rights. The goal of these guidelines are equal treatment for all applicants and participants, knowledge of your rights and responsibilities, and eliminate the illegal barriers that can prevent or deter people from receiving benefits, and then dignity and respect for all. Yes, goldfish first ingredient is enriched, but make sure that you're buying the ones that say whole grain. There are some that just regular goldfish, but then there's some that are whole grain, and they do say enriched whole wheat flour. So when it comes to civil rights and the food program, we just have to make sure that you don't discriminate on the food program. So the biggest thing about it is what you serve to one, you serve to all. The only reason that you would serve anything different is if you have that medical statement that shows that that they need accommodations because of special dietary needs. Okay, so it's pretty easy within the food program. But things that we are required to do is we need to hang up our Justice for All poster, which looks like this. Please make sure that you have the newest updated Justice for All poster hanging up in your center. It looks like this. If you still have one that has the Statue of Liberty, please make sure you throw that one away and you replace it with a poster that looks like this. If you need a poster, let us know, and I'll have Amy or Mona bring one out when they come out to do your next review. Okay. The next thing is, so this is what the Justice for All poster looks like. The other thing is the discrimination statement. This is the discrimination statement. If you give out anything like a booklet to your families, this whole statement needs to be included. But if it's just like a one-page flyer, or if it's a menu, like a month menu, you need to make sure and put that this institute is an equal opportunity provider at the bottom. So just that one little sentence is all you have to put on your things, okay? The next thing is a building for the future. This is what it looks like. It's out from the state. It says that this daycare receives support from the Child and Adult Care Food Program to serve healthy meals to your children. Meals served here must meet USDA nutritional standards. And it has questions and concerns, and it has our number, so they can call us if they have questions. And then there's also information that they can go to on the USDA website. Okay, this needs to be posted. It's available in English and in Spanish, and it is in your handouts and that I emailed you. Okay. The next one that needs to be posted is information about WIC. There's also these building for the future trifold handouts if you'd like to give those out to your family in your parent center. This is the next one. It is the about Arkansas WIC. We're required to give the families information about WIC. In your handouts, it has the newest updated one that's actually reads that it's July 2021. So please make sure that you have the newest updated WIC information hanging in your center. You can also contact your local WIC office, and they will give you enough of these to give out to all of your families if you would like. You can also just make a copy, and I put it in your handout so that way you can just make a copy to put it in your on your board. And it's also available in English and in Spanish. Okay, if you did not locate these in your handouts, then just let me know and we'll get those to you. I kind of would appreciate if y'all would go ahead and maybe email me at nicole@ar-children.com if there's something that you need, because as soon as this webinar is over, everything in the chat's going to go away. So I won't have a way of going back to look at it. So if you ask for that. So mine is nicole@ar-children.com and Mona's is centers@ar-children.com. Okay. Do we need to include those in the enrollment packet? That's a very good question. No, it's not required. You can if you would like, but it's not required. But these things need to be posted and available in your parents' center as you walk into the center. So as soon as you walk into the center, we should see the Justice for All poster, we should see the WIC information, and we should see the building for the future. Okay. So those are good to put on your bulletin boards. And the fact sheets, you might want to have, a bunch of these available for parents to take if they're interested. Maybe they don't know about WIC, or they didn't realize that they qualified, because they can look across and see, a family of 4, and, if they make less than this, they're like, oh, well, maybe I do qualify. So you could have, these available, but it's not required to include them in the enrollment packet. Oh, right. If you're not letting any families inside, then that might be a good idea. That might be a good idea. I'm sorry. I did forget about that. Should that be all on bulletin boards if you have more than one? Not sure what you mean if you have more than one bulletin board. The main thing is it's just the main entrance. So if you have more than one entrance where parents come in, the Justice for All poster is supposed to be posted at every entrance that a parent or someone from the state. The main thing is if someone walks into your center, they need to see the Justice for All poster. So that just shows that you're receiving federal funding and that you have to follow the guidelines for that. Hope that answers your questions. Okay, anybody else? Good questions. Here's our information again, so that you'll have that. The first one goes directly to Mona. The second email is to me. These are we have a new local phone number and a new local fax number, because we have moved into Little Rock now. So we have an office here in Little Rock. And this is the address. If you are ever in West Little Rock and you would like to drop by and see us, you're more than welcome. And our 1-800 number we were able to stay the same. So we have the same 1-800 number. So jot those down, take a screenshot of that if you need our information. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about, see if there are any more questions. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is combination and convenience foods. I'm sorry, Sherry, what is TEFF? I'm not sure. Where did I put that? I'm not sure. I'll have to get back with you on that. But you'll need 4 new posters because you have 4 entryways. Gotcha. Okay. I will make sure and let Miss Amy know to bring you 4 posters. All right. Oh, it was on the whole grain list. You know what? I'm not sure. It must be a different type of grain. I'll look back in a little bit and let you know before we get off today, okay? Let's get moving on. Combination and convenience foods. So as most of you know, if you're going to be serving any type of combination food, we need a CN label on it. For those of you who don't know what a CN label is, it's a product label containing a statement that clearly identifies and verifies the contribution that the product makes towards the child nutrition meal pattern requirement. They're typically used for convenience foods that are breaded and battered. So things like chicken nuggets and fish sticks and corn dogs and ready to make frozen pizzas, ravioli, things like that. And they're also found from foods that you would buy from a distributor, your food distributor. Here's an example of what one looks like. So if you were to serve these ultimate fish sticks today, then when you put fish sticks on your production records, then you would want to put a capital C, capital N beside it. That way, Mona knows that you have a CN label on file. You'll want to save this CN label and have it available in your kitchen because it's going to tell you on the label exactly how many fish sticks you have to give to meet the requirement. So it says 4 pre-cooked breaded fish sticks is 1 ounce of 1 ounce provides 2 ounces equivalent of meat and 1.5 equivalent of grain per CACFP. So that's why they're so important is they're going to tell you how much the product is meat, how much of the product is bread, and then you'll know exactly how many nuggets or fish sticks to give to each age group. Okay. And so we just need to make sure that you are serving products with CN labels and that you have a copy of the CN label on file. So if someone comes in from our office or from the state and you're having fish sticks today, they're going to want to see the CN label. Okay. And you just have to have 1 per item. You don't have to save it every single time. If you're not able to find a CN label, you can request a product formulation statement, which looks like this. It's a signed statement developed by the food manufacturers to provide specific information about the product to determine crediting information for the CACFP. When used to determine crediting information, it must indicate how the product credits towards the USDA meal pattern requirement, document how the manufacturer obtained the crediting information, citing like the USDA food buying guide, and be prepared on the manufacturer's letterhead with the original signature of the company's official and date of issue. So here's an example of one. And this could be used in place of a CN label to ensure the food item is credible. Okay, so you can request these from your manufacturers. And if you get anything from a food distributor, say like a Benny Keith, a Cisco, a Quality Foods, you can request from them to give you a CN label or a product formulation statement. Okay. Any questions about CN labels? So on your production records, just to make sure, if you're going to count that today, you're going to put a capital C, a capital N beside it, and you're going to have a copy of your either the actual label or the product formulation statement on file. Okay. All right. How are we doing? Good. Doing good. So as we move on, let's see what we might already know about food safety. Some of you may remember the story that I've told. Oh, I forgot about recipes. I skipped recipes. Well, so sorry about that. Standardized recipes. Make sure that if you are going to do anything homemade, that you are following some type of standardized recipe. Last year or the year, I guess it's been a couple years now, you should have received a recipe book that has lots of recipes in it. You can also access recipes on the USDA website and even through some other websites that have recipes that are geared towards CACFP. They're great because they'll be like for 25 kids, they'll be for 50 kids, and it will help you, when you're cooking and preparing food for your center. I would ask it on your records, if you're like doing something that's homemade today, that you put a capital H, capital N beside it. That way we know that's homemade and that we know that you have some type of a standardized recipe that you're using. Okay. You also should have all received a calendar last year, and you should be getting one within the next 3 or 4 months for 2022 year. And they're great because they're full of meal pattern ideas. There's some recipes and lots of fun things in here that we provide for you. Okay. And snack suggestions, which are fun. Okay. So Amy, we just gave those out to Amy and Mona, so they should be bringing them out to your next visit. Because I think they're so expensive. Mailing is so expensive. So I'm glad that we could bring those to you. Okay, now we're going to move on to about food safety. Okay, so I'm going to read you a little story about Susie's crazy day. Okay, and as I'm reading, if you can spot any slip ups that Susie has made, I'd like for you to just comment in the chat box. Okay. All right, here we go. Susie was in a hurry. It was time to fix lunch for her two older children, but she still had to unpack the groceries from their early morning trip to the store and fix the meals. Luckily, the baby was asleep, so maybe she could get the 2 boys fed before the baby woke up. For the second time, Susie started unpacking bags when she heard a big crash. Susie got the package of chicken on the counter just as Billy and Bobby came charging in. Uh-oh, the dog was loose and came bounding in with him. Susie couldn't get anyone to settle down. Food, she thought. Food is the answer. It's time for lunch. She grabbed a cold cuts that had thawed on the counter, the cutting board and the knife out of the sink, some bread, and put the sandwiches together. She took the grapes out of the grocery bag, and then she cut the grapes and the strawberries. They went right on the table. She sliced tomatoes and lettuce on the cutting board for the small salad and piled it in a bowl. Let's see. Oh, we need milk to drink. Their sippy cups were in the fridge, but which one belong to which kid? Oh, never mind. No one is sick right now. And it's just, family germs. Well, the baby must be starving. Susie grabbed the morning bottles, dumped the leftovers, and quickly refilled it with formula and water. In her rush, she dropped the lid. It did a few somersaults across the floor, landing under the table where Fido is sniffing it and giving the lick. Oh, Fido, no. Mommy, look, explained Bobby. What's that dripping on the floor? Ugh, it was the chicken package on the counter. Oh, no time for baby bottle now. But where was his pacifier? Susie grabbed the dish rag out of the sink, and there was a pacifier underneath the dish rag. She quickly cleaned the counter and floor and tossed the dish rag and the package of chicken into the sink and gave the baby his pacifier. Much better, she thought. Why did I leave the chicken on the counter anyway? The dog could have gotten it. Oh my goodness. After the boys finished their lunches, Susie changed the baby's diaper and settled herself and the baby into the rocking chair. As she started to drink his bottle, Susie sighed. Ah, phew, thank goodness. A moment of peace. Susie was quite pleased with herself. She had handled one catastrophe after another. Gazing at the baby, she thought, good for me. Even after all of that, I managed to keep everyone happy and safe. Or were they? Sorry. Susie's nightmare day. Hand washing, chicken on the counter, pacifier in the sink under a nasty dish rag. Definitely not safe. Cross-contamination. Chicken was out too long. Dirty cup, salmonella from chicken, dirty pacifier, cross-contamination. Yeah. Let's hope that all those mom and all those kids won't be sick tomorrow. Yeah, no labels on their sippy cups. She didn't clean and disinfect the bottle before making another bottle. All right. So let's jump into our food safety portion. If you've ever had the unfortunate experience to have food that makes you sick, you know how important this is. If something you wouldn't wish for anyone to experience, and certainly not the children that you care for. Foodborne diseases are transmitted to humans through a process called contamination. Contamination means the introduction of unwanted, harmful substances into our food. There are three main ways that food can become contaminated. There's biological, which has the microorganisms like viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Those are the ones that we're going to mainly focus on today. There's the chemical. Chemical contaminants include products like cleaning solutions or bleaches. Physical hazards like glass or metal. So certain foods such as meat, poultry, shellfish, eggs, leafy greens, and cut fruits and veggies are more likely to become contaminated. While most foodborne diseases are short-lived and don't require treatment by a doctor, young children are at high risk because their immune systems are still developing, and children under the age of 5 are 3 times more likely to go to the hospital if infected with salmonella. The side effect of food poisonings like diarrhea and vomiting, they're particularly dangerous for young children because of dehydration. Personal hygiene habits like washing your hands and staying home or keeping your childcare closed when you're sick are 2 of the most important ways you can protect the children in your care from illness, like especially during this time, right? With COVID and RSV and other things. So it's time to show off what you already know about food safety. We're going to play a food safety game called Fact or Myth. So I'm going to use the polling feature again. I'm going to read out a statement and you're going to select whether you feel it's a fact or a myth. While there are no winners or losers today, I'm sorry, I can't give you a door prize through the, through the computer. You can keep a score on yourself and see how you did, okay? So my first one is freezing milk. Freezing milk kills bacteria. Is this a fact or a myth? Fact or myth? Freezing milk kills bacteria. Very good. But everybody voted? Most of you got that correct. The correct answer is myth. Keeping meat and poultry below freezing doesn't kill bacteria. It only inhibits their growth. Any microbes that were already present in the meat will begin growing once the meat thaws. Cooking meat to the correct internal temperature helps ensure that all of those bacteria are killed. Okay. All right. The next one. Oh, I want to relaunch it. Relaunch poll. Okay. This is the next question. Here we go. If it tastes or smells okay, then it's safe to eat. That's what my grandma would always say, right? It smells okay. It should be good, right? Is this a fact or a myth? Okay, looks like y'all all got that one correct. Oops. Go back. So there it is. So the correct answer is myth. The flavor of food isn't always affected by bacteria. Even a small bite of food that has been contaminated can contain millions of bacteria. All right, so let's go to the next one. To relaunch. There we go. Meat and poultry do not need to be washed prior to cooking. Meat and poultry do not need to be washed prior to cooking. Is that a fact or is that a myth? Ah, this one we kind of got 50-50. Some people think it's a fact and some people think it's a myth. All right. I'll have to admit, I really thought that this was a myth because I always wash my chicken. My mom always washed her chicken, so I've always washed it before I cook it. But this is true. There's no need to rinse meat or poultry items before they are cooked. In fact, washing actually increases the risk of cross-contamination and spreading germs to ready-to-eat foods, kitchen utensils, and surfaces. So if you think about it, when the water's coming out of the faucet and you're washing the meat, then the water particles and the bacteria are kind of flying, and they can settle on your surfaces and on other foods that you have prepared. So it's actually not necessary to do that. Okay. Oh, I didn't end that poll. So sorry. All right, let's relaunch the poll and go to the next one. Here we go. As long as it's in the refrigerator, food should be considered safe. As long as it's in the refrigerator, food should be considered safe. Is this a fact or a myth? Very good. I'm going to end that poll, and the correct answer is myth. Bacteria thrives in temperatures between 41 degrees and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Be sure to check a refrigerator to make sure it's set at or below 40 degrees. And remember, from the health department, you're required to have a thermometer in your refrigerator and in your freezer. You need to make sure that your refrigerator is always at 40 degrees or below, and your freezer is at 0 or below. We are required, typically we're required to check the temperature of your milk to make sure that it's at 40 degrees or below. So make sure that you're keeping your milk cold, because as soon as it gets over 40 degrees, bacteria can start to grow. Okay. All right, y'all did a good job. Thank you for participating in my little poll. Now that we've talked a little bit about some facts and myths related to food safety, let's dive in and learn more about what can cause food to become unsafe. There are three main categories of disease-causing pathogens. There's bacteria, there's parasites, and there's viruses. Most common foodborne diseases are caused by bacteria, such as Salmonella, Listra, and E. coli. Viruses like norovirus can live in any food. They don't need a potentially hazard food environment to survive, so they can be really dangerous. Those are the ones that you hear about in the news on cruise ships and stuff. So those are the viruses that are really hard to contain. But the ones we want to talk about mostly are just the bacteria ones that we cross-contaminate ourselves in our kitchen. Most foodborne illnesses present with abdominal cramps, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Depending on the pathogen, symptoms can appear as quickly as 30 minutes after eating or as late as several days after consuming a contaminated food item. Foodborne illnesses sounds like a pretty awful thing, doesn't it? And I'm sure that if any of you had experienced it, you would say that once is plenty. Luckily, preventing foodborne disease comes down to a few simple practices. Hand washing, as we are now very acquainted with washing our hands, is the most effective way to reduce germs and prevent foodborne illnesses. So get your hands wet, lather with soap, and scrub for at least 20 minutes, and sing happy birthday twice in your head while washing. Make sure to scrub the backs of your hands, your wrist, and between your fingers while you wash. Rinse and dry with a paper towel. So as an adult, we know how important, we know how important hand washing is, especially in our recent times. But it's harder for children to understand because they'll say, well, my hands are clean. They look clean. They're not dirty. I don't have dirt on my hands. But they could have millions of bacteria on their hands. So here's a fun way that you could teach your children in your care about germs. I just found this on YouTube. Here's some little screenshots from the little YouTube video. This activity is quick and very simple to prepare. All you need is a shallow bowl with a cup of water, some dish soap like Dawn, and some black pepper. Simply pour the water in a bowl and sprinkle the black pepper on top of the water so it completely covers the surface. Then put a dot of dish soap on each child's finger and have them lightly touch the surface of the water. And they will see that the soap immediately breaks the surface of the pepper, which is a great way to help kids understand how soap helps to keep away germs. So in the chat, I would love to hear any thoughts on this activity, or if there's another activity that you like to do, teaching your kids about hand washing. Is there a song that you like to sing while you're washing your hands? They say singing the ABCs twice is a good amount of time. And that's a good thing to do with younger ones, maybe counting. Is there some fun songs just about wash your hands, wash our hands together, wash our hands together. You've done this. Oh, cool. They've done this activity at their center and it blew the kids' minds. That's right. They just don't know. They just don't understand. And it's really good if you can not scare them, but you want to show them how many germs there are and how important it is that we wash our hands. Oh, we've also helped to make clean putty. That sounds fun. It's just Dawn soap and cornstarch. Well, that sounds cool. I might need to try that. Anything else? Anyone else want to share? I'll give you just a second because I know it takes a little bit of a time to type out instead of just talking. Okay. All right, well, I'll go ahead and move on. So when is a good time to wash our hands? We need to wash our hands before activities, and we need to wash our hands after activities. So when the children arrive, you need to wash your hands before they arrive. And then I would encourage that when the kids do arrive, the very first thing they do is wash their hands. Okay. You need to wash your hands before preparing and serving or eating food, before handling clean dishes, between food preparation tasks, like switching from preparing ready-to-eat foods to raw meats. You need to always wash your hands after using the restroom, helping children wash their hands, changing diapers, cleaning surfaces, and touching pets or garbage. Do you have any tips of hand washing with your kids? Can anyone share what are tips do you have for hand washing with your children? Any tips for that? Because I know sometimes it's really hard to get kids to wash their hands and want to wash their hands. Anyone? Yes, sing a song. Thank you. So now that I tell the kids to make bubbles on their hands, that's fun. So now that we've talked a bit about how food can make us sick, let's find out why some of the foods can be hazardous. As we've learned, foods such as meat and poultry, dairy products, eggs, and certain fruits and cut leafy greens could become contaminated with bacteria that cause disease if not stored or cooked properly. It's our job when we prepare foods to make sure that we don't accidentally put foods at risk of becoming contaminated. So to introduce how pathogens grow on certain foods, I want you to meet, where did it go? Lost my mouse. Fat Tom. This is a little handy mnemonic device to help you remember foods that may be at risk of causing foodborne illnesses. So the first one, F, stands for food. Protein-rich foods like meat, poultry, and soy products, as well as products like cut melons and raw sprouts, are food sources for pathogen bacteria and can promote their growth under certain conditions. So the foods, the acid, the acidity in your food, bacteria thrives in neutral to slightly acidic conditions like meat and cheese. You've probably noticed that bacteria and mold rarely grow on very acidic foods, such as citrus foods and vinegar. The lower the pH, the higher the acidity. Time. Always remember the 2-hour rule. Bacteria grows really quick near room temperature. The longer high protein foods sit at that temperature, the greater the chance of the bacteria are multiplying. So you need to limit the time to less than 2 hours. And this is really important, like when you're going to the grocery store and you're picking things up out of the freezer or the refrigerator at the grocery store. So from that time, as soon as it comes out of the freezer refrigerator till the time it goes into your refrigerator and freezer, needs to be less than 2 hours, okay? Especially in our Arkansas heat, because those foods are gonna heat up very quickly and they're gonna be above 41 degrees, and then that bacteria is gonna start to grow. So remember the temperature and that danger zone. The danger zone is between 41 and 135 degrees. It's the optimal conditions for bacteria to grow and quickly reproduce. Keep those foods refrigerated until it's time to cook, and cool hot foods to 41 degrees within 4 hours before putting in the refrigerator. The next thing is oxygen. Most bacteria needs air to grow and multiply, so canned foods kind of eliminate bacteria because they are free from any oxygen. This is why they're called shelf stable. However, some canned items are, if they're stored improperly, can cause a growth of some rare bacteria. So it's like, and it causes botulism. So home canned items are not credible in the CACFP. So I'm sorry if you do can your own food and you do that with your family, that's fine, but we can't serve canned home canned foods in CACFP because of that. The M stands for moisture. The higher the moisture content of a food, the more susceptible it is to bacteria activity. That's why dried foods like jerky, dried noodles, and crackers are less attractive to bacteria. Foods like meat, produce, and cheese are higher in water and more likely to attract bacteria. So do y'all remember that poll that I gave you at the very beginning? we asked you what you thought was the world's most dangerous food. And it turns out it was kind of a trick question. So it didn't matter which one you chose, you were all correct because they all can be dangerous under the correct conditions. So even though Fat Tom may seem like a lot to remember, the good news is cooking food to the right temperature ensures that any potential harmful bacteria are destroyed. Different foods require different internal temperatures. So be sure to use a reliable thermometer to let you know that the foods have reached the right temperature. So if you do not already have some safety temperatures easily accessible in your kitchen, and you can maybe take a screenshot of this and jot these down for your cook to know to make sure that if she's warming something up, that its internal temperature gets up to 165. You know, if it's going to be ground beef, it needs to be 145 degrees. If it's pork, it's 145 degrees. If it's ham, fresh ham needs to be up to 160, and poultry needs to be up to 165. Okay. So I'm sure that most of you remember the salmonella outbreak in spinach from a few years ago. You may be wondering, is it safe to serve fruits and veggies from my local farmer or from my backyard garden? Yes, and I met with a center, I can't remember which one, but they were starting yes, also the minutes of the temperature count also. That is true. That is very true. That the center was starting a garden and wanted to know if they could serve the tomatoes and cucumbers and squash and zucchini that they were growing in their garden in their center. And the answer is yes, of course you can. Not only are locally grown foods healthy and full of nutrients, but they're also CACFP's best practices. Foods from the farmers market, farm stands, and from community support agriculture are 100% safe to serve in children in your childcare. But like any other fresh produce, make sure that you wash them under running water before preparing or cooking. And make sure and scrub with brush is recommended for veggies with tough outer peels like carrots, potatoes, and squash. Okay. All right. The next thing that's really important that we talk about is handling breast milk. Okay. A lot more moms now are expressing their breast milk and bringing it into the centers, which we highly encourage. This is definitely a CACFP best practice. But it's important to follow food safety practices when storing and preparing breast milk. No, breast milk is not a hazardous bodily fluid, but it's completely safe to be stored and prepared in your center. Just remember, always wash your hands before and after handling breast milk. It's best practice to label each bottle with the infant's name and the date the breast milk was expressed. Breast milk may be stored in the refrigerator, kept at or below 40 degrees. To warm the breast milk, place in warm water, not to exceed 120 degrees, and gently swirl to mix. Never put breast milk in the microwave or shake it to mix it. This can damage some of the important nutrients in the breast milk. Discard any unused breast milk left in the bottle 2 hours after the baby has finished feeding. Clean and disinfect the bottles and the nipples after use by boiling them in a pot for 5 minutes, then air dry. So what about storing your breast milk? So fresh breast milk may be brought from home and kept cold or frozen during transport. However, freshly expressed breast milk can be stored hygienically at room temperature for up to 8 hours, but it's best to leave it into the fridge and warm it up when you're ready to serve. It must be used within 48 hours. Use freshly expressed milk first and keep fresh breast milk stored in a refrigerator at 40 degrees or cooler, and which is the same for prepared formula. Frozen breast milk may be stored in the freezer for up to 3 months. To thaw, run under cold water or store in the refrigerator. Never use a microwave to heat or thaw breast milk. Once thawed, must be used within 24 hours and stored in the refrigerator until use. Okay. Any questions about that? Doing good? Okay. Moving right along to about storage food safety. So we've talked about how to wash, prepare, and cook food to ensure its safety. But believe it or not, the way you store food in the refrigerator can help reduce the risk of cross-contamination. Did you know that it's best not to wash your fruits and vegetables before storage? Pre-washing produce could actually promote the growth of bacteria. Fruits and veggies should be kept refrigerated and away from any meats, fish, or poultry products. Raw, uncooked meat products should be kept at the bottom of the refrigerator to ensure they do not leak or drip onto any fresh or ready-to-eat items. Yuck. If not used within a day or two, it's best to freeze those items. Store eggs in the main compartment of the refrigerator, not the door. There's no need to wash eggs before you use them. Well, unless they came out of your yard, and then they need to be washed, right? Finally, ready-to-eat items should be kept covered at all times. Freezing items can greatly extend the shelf life, so consider using the first in, first out method. Store newer items towards the back to make sure you're using the older items first, and be sure to label and date all foods and wrap them in plastic wrap, freezer bags, and or foil, and always make sure that that freezer stays below 0 degrees. All right, so we've talked about keeping our food safe from the time it arrives in our home, preparing it by safely washing it correctly and avoiding that cross-contamination, cooking it to the correct temperature, and even storing the leftovers properly in the refrigerator. But even after a meal is over, we can ensure food safety by effectively cleaning and sanitizing our kitchen surfaces and our utensils. So to clean, to physically remove dirt and debris from a surface by scrubbing, washing, and rinsing. And then to sanitize is to kill 99.9% of germs using either heat and or chemicals. And we typically use chemicals, water, and bleach. So washing dishes, make sure that dishes are clean and sanitized to help reduce the risk of spreading germs. Most dishwashers effectively clean and sanitize dishes. If you're washing by hands, follow these steps. You want to wash, rinse with hot water, sanitize with sanitary solution, in a clean sink, and air dry. What cleaning and sanitizing methods do you use? Do y'all have any recommendations? Is there anything that y'all use besides bleach and water to clean hard surfaces or to clean toys and food, things that the food touches? Anybody want to share? Lysol and like Pine Sol, and there's some other ones. Just make sure if you're using it as a disinfectant to make sure that it does read that it kills 99.9% of the germs, because some things are just things to clean, but they don't actually disinfect. All right, so some key points that we want to remember today is wash your hands before and after handling food, wash raw produce under running water before cooking or eating, cook foods to the right internal temperature, effectively kills most bacteria that causes disease, separate potential hazard foods from other foods in your refrigerator and use separate utensils for those items. Keep cold foods below 40 and hot foods above 135. And minimize the time food spends in that temperature danger zone of 41 to 135 degrees. Oh, very good. Most people use bleach, Lysol, some disinfectants from Sam's. They use Thieves Cleaner and just an extra 10% bleach solution. Ooh, they use a UV light to help sanitize at the end of the day. That's great. I know a lot of you are having to do even more cleaning because of COVID and RSV. So if y'all have anything that you want to share with each other about how you effectively keep everything clean and sanitized in your center, that would be great. And another thing, after we've talked about all the food safety, the thing I want to remind you about is that the Arkansas Health Department requires that one employee in your center to have a food management certificate. And unfortunately, we are required to have a copy of it, and we have to upload it for you to participate in CACFP. So if you do not already have that, please get it ASAP. We were supposed to have already had these in. So if your center doesn't have it, make sure that you get it as soon as possible. Okay. If you have any questions about it, Mona can help you. But this is the list of the 6 different places that has remote proctoring. I think the state has offered some study sessions and things to kind of help prepare you for the test. But remember that one person from your center has to have it, and the certification belongs to them. So if they leave your center, then someone else from your center is going to have the certification. Okay, so it doesn't stay with the center, it stays with the person that took the test. Okay. And then how many of you, how about with a show of hands, how many of you are using computer forms, either the Adobe or the Excel version of our computer forms? Well, just a couple of you are. Well, if you are not, oh, a few more, there we go, there we go. If you are not, I really highly encourage you to try them out. Don't hesitate to contact me or Amy. Amy's the one who developed these spreadsheets and the Adobe fillable. The Adobe is, I think, it's just easier, and it's a free program, so you don't have to have anything special to use it. And it's great because you can fill it out, and then you can click email, and you can just email it directly to Mona, and then she can access them on her desktop, and then she can print off what she needs to print out. So I just think it just makes it a little bit easier to send the information. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. And I just encourage you to try it. If you try it and you don't like it and you want to go back to pencil and paper, that's fine. You know, we will still accept paper monthly claims. Okay. Oh, thank you, Marcy. The electronic forms have made my life so much easier. We also don't have to wait for mailing time and spend a ton of money on making copies. That's great. Thank you for sharing. That's wonderful to hear. That's what I want to hear. And so if you do use the computer forms and then you email them, just make sure that you're saving them. If you're not printing them off, which is, you don't have to, we want to try to eliminate so much paper. Just make sure you're saving them on an external thumb drive, like the ones that we gave you, or you're saving them in the cloud or somewhere else. So if something does happen to your computer, you would be able to still access your records, because remember, you're still supposed to maintain your records for 5 years plus the year you're working on. Okay. All right. Now we're going to switch to, we're almost done. We have just about 15, 20 more minutes. I'd like to try. Okay, very good. Ms. Dixon, just shoot an email, if you would, to Amy and ask her to send you the Adobe forms. She will send those to you, and that way you can try that out and see if you like that better than the Excel. Okay. All right. So what to include in your monthly claim? Well, the first thing we want to talk about is your attendance records. So make sure that you're keeping up with these attendance records every day. You're going to list all the kids' names. The good thing is, if you do use Excel or Adobe, you have to just type them one time and they're there. You're going to put the name of your center and the month and the year. On the Excel and Adobe, it's going to have listed days 1 through 31. And what you're going to do is just go to the date that you're claiming. So if, let's just say the 3rd is Monday's the 3rd. So the 1st and the 2nd, you would skip because that's Saturday and Sunday and you're closed. So the 3rd, then you would mark off either checks or ones if they're here, and A if they're absent. Adobe and Excel is going to add them up for you across and down. If you do it pencil paper, then you just add them across and down. You're going to mark if the kids are free, reduced, and paid. I ask that you keep that confidential. So if you're going to have your form, if you're going to have the attendance records out for everyone to see, then wait till the end of the month to mark those. If not, you can go ahead and have them pre-marked. And then at the end of the month, you're going to add those down. So how many kids are free, how many kids are reduced, and how many kids are paid. It's fine to have one attendance record for your whole center, or you can have one per classroom, whichever works best for you. Mona would ask that you put them in alphabetical order by the child's last name. That just makes it easier for her when she's double checking to make sure that we have enrollment forms and income forms on every child. If you do get kids, in the middle of the month, don't redo anything, just add those to the bottom, okay? Any questions about monthly attendance records? The biggest thing about all of these forms is just to fill it out every day after every meal and not to get behind, okay? That way you have everything ready to get your claim in on time. All right, this is the infant production records. You're going to put your name and the date. Same thing, you can have one per classroom if you like, or just one form for all of the infants in your care. On number 1, you're just going to list formula or BM for breast milk. You're going to add up all the bottles that you prepared and tell us how much formula breast milk you prepared under amounts used. On the cereal, you're going to tell us what type of cereal. Was it rice? Was it barley? Was it oatmeal? How many tablespoons you prepared? The fruits and vegetables, you're going to tell us what kind of fruit, what kind of vegetable. Was it applesauce? Was it peas? Was it pears? And then how many tablespoons you prepared. If you want to tell us in jars, that's fine, but don't just put 2 jars. You need to say 2 8-ounce jars or 2 4-ounce jars so that we know what size they are, because they come in all different sizes. We highly recommend that you stick to the stage 1, stage 2 baby foods, because the stage 3s are combination, and then you don't know how much of that product is, each thing. So stick to those 1 ingredient, stage 1, stage 2 baby foods. For lunch and supper, same thing, you have to have 3 components: the breast milk, the cereal, and the fruit or vegetable. And for snack, you need to have the breast milk. You can have infant cereal or a bread or grain that we talked about, and a fruit or a vegetable. So for infants, they need 3 components at all 3 meals, okay? This is your child production record. You need to put the day, and the date at the top and the name of your facility. The left side is what you're planning on having. So like that's your menu. And the right side is what you actually served. This is what Mona is checking. So when you send your claim in, she's going to be looking and analyzing every meal to make sure that what you served was enough to serve how many kids you're claiming. Okay. So on number 1, you're going to put milk, and we would ask that you specify what types of milk you're serving. So if you're serving, you're required to serve whole milk, to the 1 and 2-year-olds, and then 2 and up, they need to be on skim or 1% milk. And then you may have some that are on a soy-based or an almond milk if they have a doctor's note for that. So I would break them each down and maybe put a slash mark, and then under the amount to use, put each amount. That way, instead of just adding all your milks together, that way, if you happen to be short of milk at the end of the month, Mona will be able to tell you which milk you're short in. So she'll be able to say, okay, it looks like you didn't buy enough 1% milk last month, or you didn't buy enough soy milk last month. And that will help you to figure out where you're deficient and what you need to do to fix it. Okay, and then on number 2, you're going to tell us what type of fruit and vegetable and how much you served, what type of bread or grain. And then number 4 is the optional meat or meat alternates up to 3 times a week in place of the grain. For lunch and supper, you're going to have the fluid milk, your meat or meat alternate. You're going to have a vegetable and a fruit, or you can still have 2 vegetables or 2 vegetables and a fruit. You just can't have 2 fruits. And then you're going to have your bread or grain. And then for snack, you're going to have 2 components from 2 different food groups. So possibilities are endless of what you can have for snack. Remember, we want to encourage you to have as many fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and things like that as much as you can. Always remember that the best meals that these kids are going to receive is when they're in your child care facility. For the most part, you have them for breakfast, lunch, and snack. And we want to make sure that we are serving the best we can. Okay. This is what the claim form looks like. Make sure that you fill out the name and the address, the month and the year, how many breakfast, lunch, PM snacks you served. And remember, you're a child care center, so you'll write those totals, and you will get those totals from your recap sheet. This is what your recap sheet looks like. If you use Excel or Adobe, then it's going to add it for you. And then you're going to have how many breakfasts you serve for the month, how many lunches, how many suppers. If you are going to be doing this by hand, then you'll just write down the dates, and then you're going to get your totals by your production record. So how many kids did you serve for breakfast on Monday, September the 3rd? How many infants did you serve? And then how many children did you serve for lunch? How many infants? And then you'll add those up. You'll add those down, all your child breakfasts, all your infants breakfasts, and then you'll add those two together, and you'll get your total of how many breakfasts you serve for the month. And that's what's going to go on your totals for breakfast on number 5. And then number 6 is lunch. So you'll put your totals for lunch. Snacks is number 7. And then on number 9, you're going to put your total of free, reduced, and paid. So how many kids were free, how many were paid, how many reduced, how many were paid. You're going to get that from your attendance records, because you're going to add those 3 numbers down and put those 3 totals. The majority of you are just on number 10 or one center. Number 11, you're going to, this is very important. Remember, your receipts are golden. So you're going to take all of your receipts, add up how much you spent on food for that month, and that amount is going to go right there. And then you're going to make copies of all of your receipts, and you're going to scan them and email them to Mona, or you're going to make copies and mail them to Mona. You're going to sign this and date this. And when you sign this, you are saying that everything is correct and accurate in your claim. Okay. So remember those receipts are gold. So we really need to make sure that you're keeping up with all of your receipts. Every penny that you spend, you need to make sure that you're saving those receipts. Okay. So here again is a reminder of what needs to be included in your packet. If you use the brown envelopes, this is what needs to be in your envelope. If you email it, this is what you need to email. So attendance records for the month, infant production records for the month, child production records for the month. You have your recap sheet, your claim form, copies of all your itemized receipts, any new or updated enrollment forms. Okay. And this is a big one. Please mail or email by the 15th of the month. Your packet should be postmarked by the 15th of the month. So right now, Mona is processing August claims, and they should all be here, within the next week. There's no reason that they should be 60 days late. Okay. So remember, if they are 60 days late, we cannot pay you. Mona's really good about letting you know, hey, remind you got to get your packet in. And we understand that things come up. People are sick, you're closed for COVID, you're closed for snow, whatever. Things do happen. Life happens. We get that. It's okay if it's a little bit, late, but we're talking, 20, 25 days late, not 60 days. And so we've had a problem with some of you waiting till the very last day to submit your claim. Please don't do that. Please don't do that to Mona. Please don't expect her to stay late to process your claim because you waited till the 60th day to send your claim in. Okay. So it's my little soapbox. All right. So some reminders. Be organized. Okay. Never take your records out of your center. Document records every day after every meal, and maintain copies of all your records and receipts for 5 years plus the year that we're working on. Okay. And the other biggie is you need to make sure that you are tracking all of your expenses some way. Some of you may be using a ProCare, some of you may be using a QuickBooks, whatever it is, make sure that you are tracking your expenses. This is a center monthly expense report. It's just something that I made up. This is not required. But remember that every dollar that you receive from us needs to go directly back into your food program. Please keep the records with receipts in case you're ever audited from the state or from the federal government. A few years ago, we were audited by the federal government, and they went out, and their biggest thing is that your centers cannot show us where all their money is going. Okay, so if you receive $2,000 this month from us from the food program, you need to be able to show where every one of those $2,000 is going, and it needs to go directly back into your food program. Okay. And remember, let's see on here, that you shouldn't be carrying over more than 10% each month. You should be spending at least 50%. So if you do get $2,000, at least $1,000 needs to be spent on actual food. I would encourage that you spend more than half. And if you're not, then you need to be buying better food. You need to be going out there and buying fresh fruits and vegetables. You need to buy, top grade meats. You need to be buying name brand stuff, and healthy stuff for our kids. Okay. Paper products and kitchen supplies as allowable cost, your cook's salary, maybe even your salary if you do the paperwork, but it couldn't be your complete salary. You could say, hey, I spend 4 hours a week on paperwork, and I pay myself $15 an hour. So that is, $60 a week I could deduct from the food program. Okay. I would stay away from the indirect costs just because they're so difficult to figure out. Your capital expenses, that's if you do need something for your kitchen, say you need a new stove, you need a new refrigerator, you want to get a fire suppression system, things like that. You cannot take that all out of one check, but what you could do is say, I'm going to buy a refrigerator. It's going to cost $1,500 for the next, 12 months. I'm going to take $200 out of every check to pay for that refrigerator. As long as you have a plan and you're showing where the money is going, you will be fine. You can also charge your mileage. So like if you're driving to a training or you're driving to go to Sam's to pick up stuff, things like that, you can do that. Okay. All right. Just make sure that you're keeping up with your expenses somehow. All right, next thing, reminders from Mona. Check your emails from AR Children. Very important. If you get an email from AR Children, make sure you're checking it. If you're using computer forms, make sure that you change the date on all the forms, because that's one of the things is that you can use them because you got the kids' names, but make sure that you're changing the dates every time. Please email and mail your packet by the 15th of the month, and please do not wait till the last day to inspect your packet to get processed, and get your food management certificates to us ASAP because we need to upload those to the state. Extra training ideas, USDA, State of Arkansas, Team Nutrition, if you need some more training. The USDA Food Buying Guide is an essential tool. If you are not already using it, I highly encourage you to use it. There is a web interface tool that you can use. You can actually download the whole book if you would like. But my favorite one is the app. So there's an app that you can put on your phone. It's USDA FBG, and you can download that app to your phone, and that way you can access it when you're in the grocery store and when you're buying stuff. Can I go back to previous slide? Yes, ma'am. This one, extra training ideas. Yes, I will. One of my favorite ones that the CACFP puts out, they have this called Halftime. It's 30 on Thursdays. It's a training webinar that you can register for free, and you can get on and you just get like a 30-minute training. Thank you. You're welcome. So in that, I want to tell you some of our plans. So remember that we're here for you. These times are changing. I was really hoping to have face-to-face trainings, small group trainings this year, but it just didn't seem like a safe option. I kind of put it off because I was hoping that, time August got here, we would be able to do it. But because of COVID and RSV and everything, we decided it's just safer to do the Zoom webinars. So I did not send out a survey But if you have any input, please send an email to me at nicole@ar-children.com and let me know. Do you like the webinars? Do you like it better if I just make little videos and put them on YouTube? Do you want me to go ahead and offer some trainings here, and then you can choose to come if you like to come? Just if you have any ideas, please let me know, because I want y'all to know that we're here for you. We're going to continue to conduct our on-site visits as needed. We're still required to see you 3 times a year. They're allowing us to do 1 visit per year over like a Zoom or a FaceTime or over the phone, something like that. So we may do that. Mona and Amy may let you know, hey, I'm on my way. Can you meet me at the door with your records? Especially they don't want to be going in, where the kids are. So just make sure that you're keeping your records up to date. So it's really easy for you to grab those and meet them at the door to do an on-site review. Please contact our office if you will be closed or if you have any positive cases of COVID-19. Obviously, Mona and Amy have been vaccinated, but I don't want to send them into your center if you have positive cases of COVID. So training may still look a little different. So I would like to hold those group trainings, provide online trainings and Zoom meetings as needed. But one thing I am going to try to do starting in September, October, it is September, in October, is provide those like 30-minute webinars. So it'll be just like this. We'll just send you a link. You can get on, I'll see that you're on, I'll get your, take attendance, and then you'll get a 30-minute training certificate for the time. And I'll do 20 minutes of a training and maybe 5 to 10 minutes of questions and answers. So if there's any topics that you'd like for me to talk about, please let me know. And I'd like to offer those every month. And my goal would be to require you to attend 2 of them, or have someone at your center attend 2 of them. If I'm talking about infant feeding and you want your infant teachers to log on and watch that one, that would be great. And then I also plan on uploading those to YouTube as so you have more training accessible to you at your center. Okay, so if you have any input, any comments on that, please let me know. All right, so moving right along, I've got 1 more minute. Okay, so just give me just a second. So as we wrap up, I want to bring your attention back to the objective that I have. What will you take away with you today? Share your lessons learned in the chat box. So what's something that you learned today? What's something that you're going to take back today to your center? And you can put that in the chat box real quickly. Okay. So as we conclude today, I want to thank you so much for attending this little workshop on safe foods and health bodies. Remember that as a child care provider, your center is a safe place for children. In fact, to be licensed, you're required to do many things to make sure that the children are safe in your center. When we think of serving meals, we typically don't categorize it as a safety measure. We tend to think more about nutrition, and that's usually what I train on, is more about nutrition and what to feed the kids. But I wanted to make sure that you see the important role you play to ensure delicious and nutritious, but also safe meals for the kids. So thank you. Please make sure you complete the training checklist and email it back to our office no later than September 17th. Please email me or Mona with any questions or feedback from this training. Thank you. I'm glad you learned about correct serving sizes, that you don't have to wash your meats before cooking. Refreshed me on the amounts of food was great. Learned a lot about records and how important it is. Keep food for less than 2 hours at room temperature to be better organized. Yes. Will it be the same link, or can we watch it on YouTube? Yes, I will. As soon as I can get it downloaded and edited, then I will put it on my YouTube channel, and you'll have access to that. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate your time. And I pray that y'all will all stay safe, and your kids will stay safe. Stay safe and healthy. Please contact us if you need anything. Just remember that we are here for you. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Let's go look at the